Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. This is a very exciting show for me. Today, my guest is my good friend. And, you know, in a social media world, that could be bullshit, but Mary actually is a good friend. Mary Taylor of Mary Taylor Wines. Mary Taylor runs a modern-day wine import company that is focused on bringing a broader awareness of the various, what we wine geeks call terroirs, but for most people, just wines from around the world. These are the wines that have been made for centuries, really focusing on the history and culture of Europe and really bringing that to the American market in an affordable and reasonable and actually a true to the tradition type of way. She is an expert in the global wine market. She has testified before Congress. We're going to get into that regarding this ludicrous wine tariff situation. She works exclusively with small, organic, and sustainable growers. I know she has a lot of women in her book. She's really she's girl power all the way, and I can't be mad at that. I'm very proud of that. And she really understands, like I said, there's in the wine geekery, there's a term called terroir, which means the soil and the sun and the place. And she's really got a book that captures all these unique places in the world. Mary. What's up, Mary, Mary? What else would you like to say about Mary Taylor Wines, about Mary Taylor the woman?
Well, you know, if you want, I can go through the whole thing, you know, birth to now, but I will say that I didn't wake up with like a silver spoon. I wasn't a rich kid. I built my whole empire, right? Just from working, you know, waiting tables. I was the kid at all the fancy parties holding the catering tray, serving hors d'oeuvres, you know, and that's how I'm here. So, some people saw my like kind of fancy label in California and they thought, oh my God, they said to me, we thought you were like some New England, like ritzy titsy girl. And I'm like, no, I've scraped by. I've slept on the subway tracks. You know what I mean? Like, so, but here it is. Here I am.
I love that. Well, welcome. So like I said, I met Mary originally through like Instagram. I saw her wine in my local Whole Foods and then I saw her, you know, so I kind of looked her up on Instagram, and there she was, Mary Taylor Wine. And so I started following her, and she's super cool. She followed me like right back like that. I don't know why. I do have a little bit of a dope Insta, though. Everybody tells me that. It's like...
Your handle is awesome. And friends of mine know you. They feel like they're friends with you just because they see our interactions. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel so good. It really does. So we actually met on Instagram, and then like just one night, we were DMing each other, and she's like, call me. So I just called her one night, and then it was on from there. And we found out we had a lot in common. We had both worked at the same store before, and so we have just, if you worked at that store, you have a indelible bond with anyone, you know?
I think so.
Yeah. So, you know, tell us about what we're drinking right now. What wines did you bring, and tell us about those?
Well, maybe can I give you a little overview of the wine project itself?
You know what? I think that's great. Tell us about... So I mentioned the intro, but tell us about how this project came about, and then you can go into these two wines in particular, please.
Yeah, so I traveled through the world of wine my whole life. I really actually started as a cheesemonger, so that's the beginnings of the terroir journey. Mm-hmm. And so my like adage that I say all the time, which annoys my sales reps because at every account we go in, I say the same stupid line, but it's if we treated wine like we treat cheese, other side. If we treated cheese like we treat wine, we'd have cow, sheep, and goat. That's it. It's like having the inputs, you know?
Yeah.
But yet people love saying, like, I'll have a Gruyere on my burger. What is Gruyere? It's a cow cheese. What is Brie? It's a cow cheese, but they have different terroir. So wine is very similar in that regard. And I think people are really confused. In fact, I, harassed a woman on Park Avenue once, 5 years ago, and I said, do you like wine, white, red? She's like, white. I'm like, cool. Ever had a Sancerre? Yeah, I love Sancerre. Do you know if Sancerre is a grape or a place? Nope. Stops there. So like the super uber hipster elite blah 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 wine world is not doing the job of communicating to the broader market. And then like Constellation Brands, Treasury, and Gallo are like bringing it to the bank. Like we're all fighting for a tiny piece of this hipster pie while like every other person is buying Blackstone Merlot.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a second, can someone reach out to the broader wine market in a really cool and authentic way, like somebody who has 30 years of tasting, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what I decided to put together. And my best friend, a friend of mine who I met in the East Village like 20 years ago, is the art director for Doubleday, Emily Mahan. She's so talented. Yeah. So I was like, can we do something kind of bookish? She's like this? Broop. And I'm like, you made it. Like, she's so talented. And everything I do is with her. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And I'll tell you, I love your label, the simplicity. One time I was wine tasting in Connecticut wine country up in Litchfield. And, I'll keep it 100. A lot of the wineries here in the Northeast are tax deductions because you're a farmer, you're a rich person, you throw some grapes on them and you get a tax deduction to be on. But so they had, so I went, I don't forget the winery, but like their label was horrible. I was like, and it just came out my mouth. I was like, oh my God, the label's hard. Like, and the tasting room manager's like, well, Donna Karen's graphic designer did. I'm like, they didn't do a good job.
No.
Your label does speak of the simplicity and like the calligraphy. It's just beautiful. It allows what's in the bottle to speak for itself, and yet they work together because it's just so simple. So I dig that, and I really dig the project here. So that's very, very cool. So if you follow my Insta, I have had a number of her wines. These are 2 new wines for me. I haven't yet.
Awesome.
I've yet to have. So tell us about the wines we're going to drink today.
Yeah. So my white label is the Sicilia Rosso, and what is in our glass is the MT2 line. So if it's a white label, it has to be AOC, AOP.
So slow down, because no, and just because. Right now, there's a lot of wine geeks who follow me, which is really cool. But AOC, AOP for the lay person, for the person who doesn't know if Sancerre is a grape or a place.
Right. Okay. So in Europe, there's a system, and it's been codified ever since 1905. It's called the appellation origine, or in Italian, denominazione, or denominación in Spanish. So throughout Europe, there's a law, a codification, where if you call...
Wait, we're Americans. We don't want any laws around our wine. What are you trying to do here? Anyway,
we're trying to... Listen,
I just want my apothecary. Just blend it up in there, put some dye in there, and it tastes good.
So, yeah, right. And how much Sauvignon Blanc? I just came out with a new wine. It's Leaping Lizard Sauvignon Blanc. It's like, what the fuck? What is that?
I'm going to catch shit for this one. Wine is not blue. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to catch a lot of shit from people, but wine is not. There's no blue wine in the world. Anyway.
Right. Well, anyway, so what am I talking about?
AOC, AOP, okay. DOC, Denominatio Originata.
So there's a law, and it applies to all kinds of things like olives, butter, salt, cheese, wine. And if you break the law, you go to French prison, which is they probably have a great baguette in that prison.
They probably do, and killer cheese and just some nice village wine.
Right, but people have broken that law, and it's applicable to not only a place like Bordeaux. If you grow the wine out of Bordeaux and call it Bordeaux, you go to French prison and eat that baguette.
Right. And that has just. The garages, there are people who do stuff differently inside of places like that.
Yeah, I mean, then there's the super Tuscan, and then there's the natty wine world, and a lot of the vinegar mafia, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Exactly. Oh my God. I mean, listen, I love what you're doing because these are sustainable. A lot of them are probably biodynamic, etc., organic, but like if a wine is flawed, it's flawed. Don't. I just
I went into a wine bar in Brooklyn a couple years ago, and everything they poured for me was vinegar.
Right.
And I was like, "Do you have anything that's like not like acetic?" And they're like, "What?" So that was they hated me. I think I got booted forever from that place.
But yeah, so these are either the two labels. One is AOC and the other is.
So yeah, the second line is like it can be AOC, but this is an IGP, which is so weird. So Gascogne is where they make cognac and Armagnac. So in these vineyards, the fruit can go into this dry wine or it can go into the Armagnac because this winery makes both. But in Gascogne is so interesting. Why aren't they appellation like registered? They're still like they're the lower line IGP, which is weird. I don't know why they can't get that status. They've been around for like 40,
and what is that? IGP
years.
Is like Indication Geographica something.
Yeah,
like?
Indication Géographique Typique,
Right.
or
So,
in Italian similar. So it's a little
IGT in Italian, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So you can use the name of the place, and there's laws around that, but it doesn't have the appellation status, which it grants it something a little bit more prestigious or whatnot. And certain appellations are
kind of like designer jeans, like Gloria Sassoon or Jordache.
Right. I haven't seen
I'm
those in a
dating
while.
myself with those. I'm dating myself with those jeans.
I was alive in the 80s. Huh?
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying. It was like, Calvin Klein, but yeah, I get it. So it is. The wine world is filled with a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, but then there's a lot of kind of ancient, outdated, like paid people off, status type things.
Yeah, and I think that the people that reject that system have a point, but I just want, it's like Basquiat. If Basquiat didn't learn to paint before he screwed up painting and made it really cool and artistic, then it would be less legit. If it was just somebody drawing on it with crayon on a canvas, I think that we need to bring people along to understand the system that the uber hipster people are rejecting. Nobody knows what you're doing over there because nobody knows what this thing is about.
Right.
And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's like a map. It's geography. It's contextual. I think I wrote one time, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I bring context to gastronomy. I'm a contextual
gastronomist." That's not hipster.
No, that's New England. That's my old Massachusetts roots right there.
Oh my God, you're a New England girl.
Oh boy,
you'd have been burned at the stake with what you're doing. You're
my God.
In my intro I talk to the Mavericks and the philosophers and deep thinkers. You're you hit all the categories, but you're definitely a Maverick.
I live in the suburbs in Connecticut part time, and sometimes I walk around my neighborhood and I can tell the people that are scandalized that I'm never with a man. I'm not somebody's wife. I would have definitely been burned at the stake 1,000,000 times over.
That's hilarious. All right, so
yeah,
I think we got it. We have a Côtes de Gascogne, and what's in that baby?
So this is a farm called the Domaine de Joy, and they otherwise commercialize their wines. The grapes are Colombard, Uni Blanc, Gros Manseng, and 10% Sauvignon Blanc. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are ripping out Colombard and growing Sauvignon Blanc because they think that's what the Americans want. And I'm like, no, we want to do the opposite.
I do get so much grass.
So this is a lot of estates down
grass
here
for
are
days. Grass for days.
Speaking of grass, a lot of herbicide is used down here. And when you go past a vineyard, you can tell if they've used herbicide because there's moss on the ground. This is not that. This is one of the most sustainable. They're in organic conversion right now.
Okay.
It's HVE3. I always talk about HVE, which is the high environmental value, which is a level of sustainability that no one knows about in America. Even the sommeliers are like, what are you talking about? But that's what they are. And this is Gascogne is right next to the Landes forest. So if you look at a map of France, the lower left corner is a huge green thing.
Okay.
It's the biggest pine forest in the world. And then you get the winds from the Atlantic kind of come through the forest, and then you get the Saharan desert winds, and they sort of mix here. So it's this beautiful climate, and yeah, it's the land of D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers and everything. It's got a lot of history.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, super beautiful. Nicest people.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Really beautiful stuff.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't got to the red yet, but
$11.99.
there you go. $11.99. I mean that's stupid. I mean, this is the type of wine that would fuck up some Psalms in a blind tasting.
Yeah.
You know, I like wines like that. They'd be like grass, citrus, slate, just naming 50 things. And I love Psalms.
I don't smell other, like when I smell wine, I have a really hard time describing it because I'm not like, I don't liken it to things, you know.
Well,
like,
you know, I try and distill it down to things like I had like a Calan Segor and like I distilled it down to shit dip pencil tip, right?
Yeah.
I mean or I'd be like blueberry pop tart with tar flecks on it of like certain Rhone wines. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
But yeah, I hear you saying. I mean, like you're not pretentious about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing that I was kind of heartbroken with in the New York wine world, you know, like the level of pretension. And I just feel like it's a very cutthroat world. And like, while, I mean, I've been in it for 2 decades, you know, and like, I think we're all
that's still tripping me out, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so like, we're all kind of a family. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't know my name in the New York wine world.
Oh yeah.
But like I feel like it's a little backstabby, you know, it's just sad. I mean, I guess whenever you get myopic anywhere, like all the retailers in like Newtown hate each other kind of thing. It's sort of like, but if I go to like Philly or Los Angeles, like, or Nashville, like I'm like this celebrity because I think like familiarity breeds contempt or something.
Totally does.
So yeah, I got a little annoyed with the pretension. And like, I also think that, I mean, how I developed this was I was in Bordeaux. I was staying at Sebastian's place. He's the Chateau de la Moth. You know that one? I
don't. I love it, but the name Sebastian, that's just dope.
Right?
Like, I was at Sebastian's Chateau. That's why you guys listen to this shit, because I like, my guests have been in Sebastian's Chateau.
But so I was like, Sebastian, I can't import your wine because you already have an importer. Do you know like another farm nearby that's doing really good work? And he's like, yep, that one. And I was like, So I go down to this farm and the wines are beautiful. They made Grave and Bordeaux Blanc and all this beautiful stuff. And I was like, oh, it's delicious. I'd love to import it. And when they showed me the label, I was like,
like it was like my experience in Connecticut wine country. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's like all these labels and then all these people, everyone's confused. And it's like, how? So one of the wines I make is called Valençay. Like, there's one Valençay on the market besides mine. You know, like nobody's heard of it unless you're a cheese geek because it's a goat cheese. It's a Grand Cru goat cheese. But now people are drinking Valençay. Like, a lot of people are, like, it's wine of the month, I just found out.
Yeah, that was a hit. That has, like, the Côtes, right?
Yeah. Oh, you have.
Yeah, remember I said, I was like, this. I did, like, an Instagram story. I was like, whoa.
Right?
It was like, it had been open for, like, a day, so it just really had blossomed. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Another stupid bottle of wine. What do you charge for that one?
Well, that one's my highest end, so that would be, like, $19.99.
Yeah, I mean, still. I mean.
I'm between 10 and 20 only.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
And I do higher end stuff for our distribution company, but I always redesign the label. If you want to sell your wine to me, we're gonna have a good hard look at your label and we're gonna fix it.
Right. I mean, people. That's the most. There's so many useless one-liners and don't judge of course you judge a book by its cover. Shut the. I mean, come on. I mean, like, come on.
Well, a lot of labels in Europe. Somebody sent me these wines from the Loire Valley. And they looked like they came out of like communist Moldova. I was like, ugh, like the wine's good, but I'm not. Like, you got to redo everything, you know. Like, this whole package sucks, and they're all different. I'm like, how is anyone ever gonna like be loyal to this thing? Like, I'm gonna have to hand sell this everywhere I go. Like, I'm not working that hard, you know.
I hear you. And what's the red? What's the red? Because we got a lot of stuff going on. This is so good.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. What's the red we got going on?
So this is a Sicilia Rosso. It's certified organic. There was a little drama on probably because of me, on the Natural Wine Forum on Facebook. There was a discussion about Cornelissen, who is awesome, but, you know, very, 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 very expensive and sometimes volatile. So I was like, I make a Sicilian wine that's like $16 on the shelf. Like, it's, I think, comparable. Like, oh, I got beat down for that comment. But anyway, so this is 100% Nero d'Avola.
Okay.
It comes from a farm.
Oh,
Two sisters who are super hot. Clara and Anna Maria.
They do the griot?
Yeah, so that's Clara.
Oh.
But this is Anna Maria's wine.
They
are
hot.
They are hot.
They are
Like,
actually.
hello.
Like most winemakers are like look like farmers. They don't look like farmers.
No. I don't even think they really spend much time out there.
They must not. I mean, seriously.
But they're in Sicily. They're in Mazzara del Vallo, which is a village that's famous for its shrimp. It's like the best shrimp village place. I don't know. But it's south of Marsala. Marsala or Marsala. I always mix that up. It's on the unhip side of the island. So like the cool part of the island is like Etna and Noto and all these cool places. Right. But that's
Mount Etna and all that shit, right?
Right, but you're looking at $45.
Right.
And I'm like, huh. So I wanted to do something like light, elegant, fleshy. I don't ever put oak on my wines. I have one wine that has a little bit of oak on it, my Southern Rhone wine. But this is
which I'm not mad at you, but oak, you know, like I think you said one time, my wines don't need makeup, but there's nothing wrong with makeup. But I get it. Your wines they don't need it. They don't need it. But I drink some and I'm like, shit, if you threw that in 100% French oak, you could sell that for $75 probably. Some of your wines. But I dig what you're not. But it's just they're that good that I could tell. Like if you did do that, like you could just go that route.
But where's the terroir? You're like erasing the terroir. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna do this one flavor on top of the wine. It's like, when does it?
That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
This I'm gonna have to not finish this and drink this tomorrow. It's gonna be good. It really is.
Yeah, I found these guys.
Smoking.
You know, I go to these like different events and stuff. I find these growers. It's a little bit easier. I remember I got my Anjou. I was at the Loire Valley Wine.
I love your Anjou.
Yeah. That's a star.
That is a star. Her Anjou Blanc, 100% Chenin Blanc.
Right, but it's a blend. I love to trip people up.
Really?
You know what it's a blend of?
No, I do not. So tell.
I like to challenge people's perception. Like saying it's a blend while it's 100% Chenin. How could that be? Well, half of the wine is grown on slate and the other half is grown on like the Tufo.
All right.
And then we blend it in the spring.
Okay, so, you know, a lot of stuff going on with you. A lot of
do you want my little rundown?
Yeah, give me the rundown. Yeah.
Little story here and there. How do I have it?
Yeah, because basically, you know, there's like, you know, I talk about, you know, there's going to be, you know, like obviously you're tasting some success now. But like you said, like you started at the bottom, you know what I mean? So want to kind of hear about your story, like how, you know, the bumps you took, the road, like was there a time you're like, screw the wine business, you know, I'm gonna go make some money, you know, I'm gonna go make some money, you know, like not that I don't, you know, not your business process, but you know what I mean. Like the joke is, how do you make a small fortune in the wine business? You start with a large fortune. Like so, yeah. Give me the rundown. Give us the dirt, Mary Taylor.
I will. Okay, so let's circa back. So part of what got me into like food and wine is that my family ate only like nuclear, like preserved Chef Boyardee with
shit food. Yeah, totally.
Shit food.
Right.
And yet, so I worked at like 14 for this catering lady in my beautiful hometown of Concord, Mass. And I would help her.
Yeah, you'd have been burned at the stake. She's right. You're right up
I'm right there.
You're right there. Anyway, you are right there.
Louisa May Alcott was from my town, and she was an abolitionist, feminist, never married, made all the money for her family, like kick-ass person. And I take after her.
I love that that's like you're conscious of that. That's dope.
Thanks.
That's dope.
Yeah, we could go into Concord history. That would be the whole show.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I would go into these kitchens.
We'll have you back, Mary.
So my family, I love to read, you know, and so I always said we were the Jode family. If you've read The Grapes of Wrath, it's like, you know, like a car strapped to the ceiling of it's just junk. But I'd go into these other homes and like, whoa, they were like roasting garlic, like shit like that. That was so exciting to me, and I was like, the smell.
We had like salt and pepper was all like was the spices in my house. So I
hear
totally
you.
hear you.
Powdered muffin mix and shit. You know, like it was.
Well, no, my mom was from down south. So
Velveeta.
my mom did make cast iron cornmeal.
Oh.
But like things like I could feel like we ate canned vegetables instead of frozen or fresh. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but I was fortunate enough to have some decent home cooked meals, but wine wasn't a part of it. But anyway, I digress. So
Yeah.
So you grow up kind of like almost in a food desert home, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, and like the town is pretty well to do. So I was like seeing all this wealth and all these people that had like wine cellars and blah. You know, so I endeavored to be accepted into that world by way of food. So I became a real food snob and you know, worked at the cheese shop and would always bring like a really incredibly esoteric cheese to everything. And then I was invited the first sip of champagne, I was on Beacon Hill. Oh, and it was Veuve Clicquot. And like,
you know what's so funny? When you first get into wine, but like back in Veuve is like Budweiser actually of champagne.
It sucks.
But like you're like, oh, the orange label. I mean,
my God.
You do feel that way.
So I would work these like really hard shifts at like the caterer, you know, and I would work restaurants, and I'd take all that money down to the like one club I could get into with a fake ID. And
what was the name of the club?
Was it Atomic or something? What the hell was it? It was down in the club district of Boston.
Wow.
So my friend Anna, my hot Russian friend, blonde hair, we'd sit at the bar and drink a bottle of Veuve, and it was like $50 at the bar, which was like
that's
blowing
cheap.
big bucks.
Yeah.
Now it's like 200 or something.
Right, for a bottle in a bar, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we were so hot, and we'd always have the crystal glasses. You know, I would never drink champagne in crystal glass now, but anyway, that was the beginning. And so then I worked, and I worked at the Boston Harbor Hotel as a server, but I did a lot of wine stuff, and I got more into it, and then part of me like wanted to be in like a literary, and I was always kind of thinking about the world. So I applied for a job for Elie Wiesel, you know, the Nobel laureate, and I got the job at Boston University in the theology department. So I was like rearranging his books and stuff. And one day they said, hey, our assistant in New York is going to leave. Do you want to move to New York and run the office there? And I was like, yeah.
I remember you said something one time when we first met and talking. You did like a throwback Thursday on Instagram, and you're like when you worked at Sotheby's. And And you're like, and you said, I didn't have enough clothes for that place. And I thought that was hilarious.
No, like Sotheby's. So my next job was Sotheby's. So that thing fell apart. I got on Hot Jobs.
Sounds like a dating site.
Hot Jobs, right? Remember Hot Jobs?
Wow, Hot Jobs.
And they were like, really Sotheby's wine department. So I was like, does anyone have a blazer? I'm going to go do this. So I went to, and I was living, I was like living in a quasi living room in the East Village at that point. And like, so I went to Sotheby's, and they were like, they're like, they're very, you know, English. And they're like, what wine would you, to name a wine? And I was like, Opus 1. Like, I wasn't cool yet. And so they hired me, and I, for a year, worked there and like was hated. The office manager loved me. The like head of the wine department hated me.
Who was the head of the wine department?
Bob Slee.
Okay.
Literally hates me so much that like I think I clicked LinkedIn 20 years later,
and he still
won't accept me.
LA, it's a big city. It's so spread out.
Like
you have lives in different neighborhoods.
But so yeah, there's like stores now that I've known for decades that won't carry my wine. They're like, oh yeah, we don't do negociant, and I'm like, this is not a negociant project, by the way. You see the grower's name on the bottle,
like,
right?
By the way, what's that Louis Latour up there?
Yeah, exactly. You like your Girardin just fine. Yeah. Give me a break. But also, I'm just a label redesigner. I'm not any different than any other importer, except I just redesign the label. Literally, that's it. And all my wines are like 10 to 20. So I have a certain band within which I work. But some people accuse me of like private label and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that I'm making something that people can actually find and want to buy and drink, like en masse. So you're like, oops. Anyway.
I did it again.
I know, exactly.
I brought some great wine.
I know. And everywhere
into the country.
Everywhere it sells like crazy. With all of my distributors, I'm in like 30 states. I am in the top 10 best-selling things. And
Cheers. That's
Thank
no
you.
joke.
Thank
That's
you.
like legit.
Yep. Then I go to Sotheby's. It's super snooty, and I have one suit that probably started to smell after a while. Laundromat is expensive. And I was so poor. They paid $28,000 a year. And I was so poor, I had to move from my living room couch in the East Village, because I couldn't afford it anymore, to a railroad with strangers in Woodside. Woohoo! So I did that for a while. Yeah, and it was a terrible commute, and I was always screamed at for being there at like 9:02. They're like, it's 2 minutes after the hour. So anyway.
They're British.
Then I worked at our alma mater,
Yep.
Acker Merrill. That was so interesting and fun. I was invited to a lot of like Park Avenue. I was hot. I was like 26 and smoking hot.
Smoking hot and
Just
nose wine.
Take 40 pounds, 50 pounds off this, and like
You're so funny.
20 years younger. Hello. Anyway,
Yeah, that
it's all
place.
good.
That place.
I think I'm more beautiful now, but in spirit.
You are beautiful. Your spirit shines for you, and there's nothing wrong with your physical. But like, yeah, that place, like the clientele, like you said, like you're in freaking people's apartments, and like,
oh yeah,
they're popping like crazy
90 Chambertin,
right? Or like 86 Cheval, 86 Mouton.
Well, I drank a lot of wine with Rudy's, but so I always joke like I thought I drank the great wines of the world.
I
Anyway.
mean, when I worked there was a client, Rudy.
What's up?
Who
Hope you get out of prison soon, kid.
who would come in the store with a Sauterne glass in his pocket and be like, Marvy, get a half bottle of E. Kim. I need breakfast, and we'd have 90 E. Kim for breakfast. It was that kind of place.
What's a Sauterne glass? What does it look like?
Oh,
Like
Riedel, it has like some crazy, it's like, has a weird bulbous, I don't know, breast shape, something, I don't know, sweet, I don't know, nectar type thing, mother's milk. Makes it taste like mother, I don't know.
There you
but,
go.
Yeah. But it was a unique shape, I can't afford a Riedel. Well, I could.
The best.
I could buy one, but like that's like
glassware.
probably like 3 bottles of wine. So
You ready for the best glassware in the world? Corin, $5.
Yeah,
$5.
You
a glass. Get it. Everyone.
Actually, I think I asked you about that. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but this is a killer glass. It's actually
It's a nice glass.
It's IKEA.
Yeah, there you go.
And my wife breaks wine glasses like it's a sport, so I can't spend a lot of fucking money on wine glasses.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, psh, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
All
right. Back to this, because this is important. I was a buyer for a retail store, and the couple that owned the whole thing treated me like the help. And we grew a resentment towards each other pretty quickly, but I watched them start a company, and they did it pretty much on a shoestring, and that was super influential, because I always thought like, oh, it's this big enigma starting a business. Like, how does one do that? And I just watched them. Like, they were super cheap. It was like, okay, that's $50. That's $100. Like, everything was doable. And I learned a lot from that. And so, but because we had this kind of growing resentment, I ended up going to tastings, like 5 tastings a day.
Right.
I worked with, I think over 100 distributors. And that was like in 2005, 6, 7. And that's like Joe Dresner's golden years. And like there was, Neil Rosenthal, I love. And I got to know the like lower end wine market, because I really didn't, like I would leave Sotheby's after writing about like Grand Cru, and I would go buy a bottle of Yellowtail because I was poor.
Right.
And then I got into like Portuguese, I loved Vinho Verde, but like, but this is where I got my super education about like how the whole thing works.
How to run a business. Most people just taste the wines they need to taste in order to get to the next level. They didn't have the experience you and I had to taste all these Grand Crus. And when you work in the auction world, these pre-auction tastings, you're like, you get to taste the best wines in the world. You know what I mean? And then it allows you to reverse engineer things. So that's why like you can import wines like this, because you've tasted the best wines in the world. And you know what characteristics and what notes are really good and really are bringing that sense of place. So how I learned was both the great wines of the world, but also after I quit my job at that retail store, I did so because at one of the fancy Park Avenue guys had a dinner, and they invited like this French winemaker, and that winemaker and I ended up hitting it, hot. Wow.
So I lived in France with him for like a couple years. I went to school in University of Bourgogne in Dijon. I went to like a semester there. I went to the Institute of Touraine. He was from Montlouis, which is one of my favorite wines ever. Too expensive for the Mary Taylor line, but it's. Have you had to go to Montlouis lately?
No, you know what's interesting? What's her name? Martine.
I worked for her for a hot minute.
Martine did
6
a
months.
tasting with JK from Acker, and she has a Montlouis, and it's just apparently that's like the
Montlouis?
Yeah, it's like a.
I said Montlouis.
Yeah, you said who the fuck is Montlouis?
All right, ready for this?
I'm ready.
You ever heard of Vouvray?
Of course I've heard
I'm
of
just
Vouvray.
kidding. Well, you haven't heard of Montlouis. It's right across the river.
I know, but you know who Fat
Marvin.
Hey. You know who Fat Albert is?
Do I? That's the best show
Okay,
ever.
so it's okay. So now we're talking Shannon.
Shannon.
Yeah.
So I had this huge Loire Valley like insight. Like I just had like a coming of age.
I just got schooled on my own show. I love that.
So I like went. So I started this thing called the Thoreau Wine Society. Isn't
Wow,
that so dorky?
that is
the dorkiest name
That's
ever
okay.
heard.
I'm more of a Emerson guy, but
Really?
yeah.
But Thoreau went to prison for stuff.
Yeah, but
He was
but compensation is one of the greatest essays ever, man. I mean, I have a
gotta go
book.
back.
I have a book. I mean, that was his teacher. So I'm one of those guys. Don't seek what is like seek what they sought, right? So I read the person they learned from. That's just me.
Emerson visited Thoreau in prison and said, Henry David.
You're a dumbass.
Why
How'd
are
you end up in prison?
Yeah, exactly. He
That's
goes,
what he
why
said.
are you in there?
What the
And
fuck's
Thoreau
wrong with
said,
you?
why aren't you?
He said, because I'm
Come
smart.
protest with me.
He's like, because I'm smart. You don't go to jail. I get what you're saying.
Anyway.
I mean, in Dr. King's best essay, it's not that I have a dream speech. It's a letter from a Birmingham jail. So, so I big ups Thoreau for going to jail, but my black ass isn't going to jail. Just so you all know.
Good.
It's not a place for me. I'm kind of pretty.
You are pretty.
Just saying.
So I started a newsletter, and I'm writing.
I love that name though.
The Thoreau Wines.
Yeah.
And I start with like everyone I've ever met in the wine business, and Food and Wine magazine put my letter, like mentioned it in best wine reads of 2008. So they're like best summer wine reads, and then they quoted.
Were you still in France then?
I was in France.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I started a distribution company, and I brought all the coolest wines from the Loire Valley. He already had a portfolio. He was an importer. We built a distribution. So it was New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and I was the president. And I had an office on 35th Street. I wore my blazer, and I was like, I was so psyched. I'm like, I am the president of...
MT forget Eric B for president. It was MT for president.
Well, that's later. I'm not done with this whole thing. I'm going to be president, I swear. No, the president of the IMF or something like that.
I'm just a kid from a fucking beat up beach town in Jersey, so like
in Monmouth.
I mean, to drink wines with Mary Taylor from Concord, Mass, and
so funny.
with these stories is, this is wine. It's fucking dope.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's actually a little bit it's kind of being reticent today. Sometimes it's just a little compact.
I mean, because like you don't put, and I get you said you don't put oak on your wines. Why
would you put oak on that?
I'll tell you why. Because then it would turn into a Most Def lyric. It'd be like ass so fat you could see it from the front. That's why.
Right.
That's why. And I'm not ever mad at but it doesn't need it. But that's why you would, because then it would just be.
But I want people to taste Sicily.
Plush.
Yeah, then it would be international wine.
But Sicily. But it would be like.
That's Sicily.
You ever see that scene in The Godfather where James Caan like is banging the chick up against the wall, and like she's like really thick, really plump, like Sicilian girl. Godfather 1. Yeah, go back and watch it.
After the wedding.
Yes,
I love that movie.
And when you grow up in the '70s and it's all Twiggy and these thin girls, and like he was like trying to knock the stuffing out that muffin on that thick chick. That's what I'm saying. So Sicily. But it's just so beautiful. It's really is beautiful, and it has a lushness without
the white.
Yeah.
What do you think of the white?
Oh, the whites. I think I said something. It's like honeysuckle, and it's like fuck your Santa Margarita Pinot Grigio. Drink this white wine.
Well, so this is what I'm trying to do.
So clearly, it wasn't an easy road. Is the bottom line.
No, I got
ups and downs.
I got snubbed by the hipster rich kid fucking Trustafarian assholes.
Trustafarian. How dare you diss? I think I want to be Rastafarian, but I grew up in New Jersey. So, but yeah.
Do
no,
you have a trust fund?
My father worked at the fucking post office.
There you go. Well, anyways,
but I get it, right? So
no, it's just I
Speak.
can't fit into skinny jeans, so I wasn't part of the skinny jeans mafia of vinegar. And I'm like, people are like, Mary Taylor wines. Oh, they're not natural. They're not natural. It's all chemical. I'm like, fuck you, and fuck your like parents and fucking Greenwich. You fuck. You know, I've been in this. Well, there's like in 2010 when all the hipster wine companies came to be. I don't know where they came out of the woodwork, but like
they came out of what's that shit called when you have a trust fund and you get it's a spendthrift clause, so they dispense every 5 fucking years. So
right,
they spent all their money and drank wine. Like, I know what I'm going to do when I get my next hit of money. I'm going to start a wine company.
And they all started in 2010, and they were all we only work with natural, non-inoculated.
And this is that is the bullshit. I'm gonna say that's just the bullshit of the wine. But like, I don't understand. Look, like, make the best product you can, but don't. I'm not talking supermarket wine, residual sugar. It's a formula. It's Kool-Aid. We're doing, but
right.
Like when they start talking that bullshit about like first growths and Rome, I mean, like fuck, like, and a lot of those wines are biodynamic, but they're not going to pay the money to get the sanction from the U.S. government. Why? Just make good fucking wine.
Well, I mean, I think the orange wine thing started to happen, and
oh, good Lord!
How much is a Grosvenor these days? It was $60. I don't have $60 fucking dollars for a orange vinegar wine. Sorry, and I think they can be really good sometimes. Right. But I think that making that like the standard,
right.
And then it became like every restaurant had to have like cloudy,
yeah. There was
funky
I
shit.
was on a
and that's cool, but like not all of it. You
right.
know?
I was on a there was a merchant, and he did a. I'm on like 85. I'm like on 385 mailing lists. And this merchant was doing. He used to work at Skurnik, and he had a tasting with Michael. Michael Skurnik is a venerable importer. For those you don't know, just Google Skurnik wines. And there was only like 12 of us on there. Like it was open to all his home mailings, but 12 people showed up. And he asked Michael, and his shop's in Brooklyn. And he asked Michael about natural wines. He's like, it's just crap. He's like, I've never had one that's good. And the guy was like, I have to have them because I'm in Brooklyn.
Right.
Like, I have to have a natural wine section.
I used to sell the wines of Fred Cossard. It was a estate in Burgundy. And they had, like, Pouligny Montrachet. Mm-hmm. They took the grapes and they threw them in a vat and shut the door. And then, like, they were really interesting. But that was, like, $200 for something that was, like...
fuck that shit.
Like,
Sorry,
1
bro.
out of 5 was drinkable.
Yeah, that's that bullshit.
Anyway,
so yeah, you went through all this shit, and when did you actually start Mary Taylor Wines?
So I started in beta when I was the president of Langdon Shiverick East, which was our company together.
Oh,
and so I found
that is a white ass name. Hi, I'm Langdon Shiverick.
I know.
Pleased to meet you.
Believe me. Yeah, and
Can you get me another hors d'oeuvre, Negro?
They're billionaires. They have properties all over they have oil money, hedge fund, and people are like, oh, I love these. It's like if you're gonna be a snob about like evil Trump-doning rich people. Sorry, did I just? Oh no!
Oh,
I didn't say anything. That was a speculative comment.
That was the Black Wine Guy's guest. I did not say that.
Anyway, whatever. So I had the insight then,
right.
And it was that winery I mentioned before in Bordeaux that had the ugliest labels in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I was into the like Joe Dresner and all this stuff. And I was like, wait, why don't somebody?
Did you mean Louis? Is it Louis?
Well, that's like the company.
Okay, Louis. Okay, so Joe was running it. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, Joe was the guy. But
I mean, I know it's like
away.
Kermit Lynch, but now Anthony's running it. I need some inside
Kermit
scoop.
Lynch. You want to? If I open my Adventures on the Wine Route book, he signed the book, and you know what he wrote?
What? What'd he say?
To marry the best thing I've seen all night. This is before the consciousness opened up in the world. I don't think you'd sign like that now.
But I mean, and it's hard if you're a man of a certain age because unfortunately you did grow up. This shit was accepted, right? So I do have some empathy for some people. I don't have empathy.
I don't begrudge. But
I don't have empathy for people who say grab him in the pussy, like,
right.
but being overly flirtatious. I do have
I
even give some old people a pass on the N-word because I'm like, it's just they're just I just like my mother's from down south. Like, y'all don't even know. I'm saying I'm like, oh, that's just like. I mean, I worked at this one sneaker store, and someone once referred to me as that pleasant light-skinned Negro, and this was 1986, so,
Well, Negro is a different word than the N-word, right?
Yeah, but, it's an N-word,
yeah.
and I don't even know. I'm not a linguist. I'm not Noam Chomsky. I don't know linguistics. I don't know the migration from the N-word to Negro and Negra, I know, and accents like Negro. I mean, but all I'm saying is I do, like a guy like Kermie Kerm, that was flirtatious. Nowadays, could get you slapped. I mean, not face slapped, like literally like boycotted type shit. But I think that's a compliment. I mean,
I was kind of tickled.
You stood out to him.
Right, I was tickled by it, but I was also offended in that I was like, he didn't care about who I was at all. He just was like, the best thing I've seen all night. It's like, okay. I don't know. I guess I wasn't.
Well,
I wasn't.
He's not your mother. He's a man, baby.
Right.
But anyway, so.
But I'm a flirt too. I try not to.
I was gonna say, come on, you're like
hot dudes who love married.
Exactly, hot dudes love married to
Well, I like to.
She's like, we hit that.
I like to objectify. Right? Is that
that's
men? They need to feel a little bit.
We
used.
do need to be objectified. I thought I was ugly for years. Turns out I'm pretty handsome.
You're pretty handsome.
More
handsome in person.
Thank you.
Everyone,
and also the voice. Like I hate in my head, my voice sounds like shit, but people go crazy like, oh, your voice. So
yeah.
But so I get it. I'm a flirt. I get it. But yeah.
Right, I have to talk about Congress.
But men are pigs. At the end of the day, we're pigs. I can admit that. So you start Mary Taylor Wine. When did it start again? And we're going to get to the Congress. We got time.
Okay, good. I started working for Massenoy, and I was like the French portfolio manager. I was up in.
Damn.
I was on and off the subway 100 times a day for 5 years, and
this is a grind, people. Just so you know, if you want to get in this game, it's a grind. You got to put your
You got to put your time in. You can't just be like, I want to finish it.
I took my whiz set.
Unless you're a rich dude that invented natural wine in 2010, then you get to step ahead of the line,
Right.
But that's okay.
But I just want people to know that because there's so much going on in activism and wine, and I think it's great. But I think people need to understand this is a business, and you got to do the work. That's all.
And you got to show that you can do the work.
Yeah, you got like when you're talking these higher levels, it's like anything else. Like there's Major League Baseball, there's AAA, there's AA, and there's A-League Baseball, and you have to be willing to work your way up. Michael Jordan didn't make it to the majors, but he started at AA. He worked his way up. I just think people need to understand it. That's all I'm saying.
It's pretty easy to get a wine job, because it's a service position for the most part, and it's easy to lose a wine job. And so a lot of people have these resumes that are like 8 months, 10 months here.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
I wouldn't hire you. Just kidding.
You just said I need your help, but it's okay. But you shouldn't hire me. I consult now because that's where I'm better because I don't really like a boss. But I mean, exactly. it is. No, and also it's service. I will tell people when I was 20 years old, they're like, I worked for this white dude who owns restaurants. He was totally cool. I worked at his running store, but he owned a restaurant. And he was like, you should become a waiter. I'm like, this is me. I know I am. I'm like, I am not waiting on white people. I'm like where I lived in Monmouth County, that was not going to happen. I was like, I get it. No, thank you.
Right.
Because if you're in the hospitality and service, you got to be in hospitality and service.
Yeah.
And I just have too much of a mouth. So,
Right.
But so
I'm sloppy. I pour.
well, you see, like we got dripping. We're staying in their table. They're gonna be like, the black wine guy was here again. Goddamn black wine guy. So they're jumping the line ahead of you. You were in beta. You had a label.
Yeah. So I'm doing like my French portfolio manager job for like 4 something years.
That's fancy, by the way.
Yeah, it was an interesting company. You know, I don't, I mean, I had a great kind of learning curve there, but I realized, so they let me sell my Bordeaux's. So I had a Bordeaux Blanc and a Bordeaux Rouge, and those were on the market, like, so that's, 7-8 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that's really the beginning, but I didn't have a company around it. I just had a label that I trademarked. So I'm like, that's kind of taking off, but they don't want me to proliferate. Like I showed them another wine I wanted to do, and I was like, my dream is to like white label Europe and tie the whole European story together and become the most powerful wine company in the world. And they're like, oh yeah, not under.
They're like, slow your roll.
Slow your roll, girl. Get your, you know.
They're like, lay down, Sally.
I know. I was the second highest grossing salesperson and the portfolio manager for a long time. So. You know what I would do? I would sell like Conterno, Barolo with my in my pajamas with a headset. I'd just call Sherry Lehman and be like, "You need this." They're like, "Sure, 20 million cases." I was like, "I'm going back to bed." You know,
love it.
So that was pretty fun. But I knew that they didn't want me to proliferate, and I had kind of like an annuity business. Like I had the like 20 really good customers.
Right.
That were like, nobody's selling us wine but Mary Taylor, and I was like, sweet. And I didn't need to like do a lot for that like after a while, so I negotiated to go right on commission. No more salary, no more portfolio manager.
That's badass, people.
Yeah.
This bee ain't fucking around. She's like, just pay me commission, I'm good.
Yeah. So, but while I was
that's legit as fuck.
Yeah. So I ended up going into this like executive program at Stern. I go to Stern, and then I leave Massenoy. I start kind of building Mary Taylor, and then I take a job on Wall Street. And so I was at Merrill Lynch. Yeah, so I was 2.5 years at Merrill Lynch. I wanted to figure out finance. I didn't know anything about it.
This is like a fucking American success story right here.
So I go to Merrill Lynch, and I'm the highest grossing financial advisor in my cohort. So I go through this training program. I get my series licenses.
You're like Giovanni Ribisi in fucking Boiler Room. You're just killing it.
I got to read that.
It's not a book. I'm not as smart as you. It's a movie.
Oh.
Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi.
I see the words Vin Diesel, and I'm like, next.
Wow.
Really? Anyway, okay, all right.
Come on,
really?
You pass on Vin Diesel?
I don't really watch TV. I never had
Ben Affleck's in that motherfucker. It's a good film.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'll check it out. I'll watch it. I'm currently watching The Boys. I love that show on Amazon.
Someone else told me.
So
it
good.
Might have been you. Someone else told me about the damn Boys.
So
where they killed. It was probably you. Where they kill the superheroes, right?
Yeah, because they're
corrupt. Like, you're not. They're like, fuck, you mutants.
Yeah, they're like corrupt. Anyway, you should watch it. But so I go to Merrill Lynch, and I'm like on the 40th floor of like, it was down in Battery Park City, like, you know those green top, right next to the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. And I have cold wine in the fridge, and all my colleagues are like, why is there open cold wine in the fridge every day here? And I was like, I'll be back in like 3 hours. I would go to like stores and restaurants and sell the wine. And then occasionally in a conversation with people that I knew for years, I'd slip in that I'm a financial advisor, and like I'm actually figured out what to do, and I understand how to manage money, and I'm on this team. And like people started giving me their money to manage and buy my wine. So I was like,
it's a twofer.
It's a twofer.
It's not just finances with this one. She's got great wine.
I know. And I still, I have to anyway, I have the licenses are about to expire, but so I worked there for 2.5 years. My employer was super inappropriate. He expected women to be super, super sexy, and like he would always compliment the ones in heels. And I had the blazer back on, but like I'm a kind of a geek, and I wear like loafer. Like I'm not trying to be sexy. I'm just trying to be me, So he was like unimpressed with my lack of mascara or something. But my friend who's really, really smart was like, why don't you start a little spreadsheet and write down all of his inappropriate comments when he said them, who was in the room. So I started the spreadsheet, and then one day he pulls me into the office. He's like, you're at 97% of your goal. which means you're fired because you're not at your goal. And you had this much time to get to the goal. And I was like, interesting. I'm like, the guy in the cubicle, like 3 cubicles down, is at 30% of his, because you could see everybody.
Right.
And I was the highest grossing. And I'm like, how am I fired? And he just got a promotion to the trading desk. Now he's like an investment banker. Like, and I'm fired? I'm like, hey, what's the number to HR? Okay, cool. By the way, do you know about this spreadsheet I've been keeping of his inappropriate comments? Boom. They said, you don't have to come into the office.
Mic drop.
Yeah, you work from home. We'll figure this out. They took like 8 months to investigate it. And after that, I got discharged. But I had 8 months of just getting like $100K salary and building Mary Taylor Wine.
Nice.
So that was the stepping stone that I needed.
Right.
So then I did that. And then I won this fellowship at NYU, and I went to Silicon Valley, and I learned all about like investors. And you know what I learned?
Jesus, what'd you learn?
Don't get any investors. No investors.
Yeah, no,
Stay the fuck away.
I've learned that
Keep
just
your
from
money.
studying the internet marketing world. That like find a way to like I mean I haven't made any money, but that's the model. What these guys do is they learn how to put $1 in advertising, get $2 out. Don't take on investors.
No.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Even there's a friend of mine in Boston that's just sold like a software company for $100 million, and he's like, I would love to invest in your wine company. I love what you're doing, and I'm like, yeah,
no,
good, go.
Bye. Bye.
I'm like, thanks for the awesome bottle.
You know what?
Of Chambertin, but no.
Bye. So then obviously you're doing this, you're making money, and then this thing starts growing, and now you have distribution in how many states?
Like 30.
Like 30, and then.
Sweden, Germany.
And then about a year ago, what happens?
Are you talking about the distribution company?
I'm talking about...
Tariffs.
There you go.
All right. So thanks to Henry David Thoreau and Louisa May Alcott, I have like kind of an interest in the written word, the pen, the power of the pen. So the tariffs come on, and I'm like, okay, so first of all, you have to understand this. I have this, like, my dad's 80-year-old cousin is, like, the head of, like, a hedge fund at KKR. Like, big power. Like, Goldman Sachs. Like,
it's 1K short, everybody.
Yeah. Even, like, one line off the... But
so close.
So I, like, was introduced to him because my dad was like, oh, you should know this guy. He's sort of related to us, and, he's all in finance, so you should meet him. And so, anyway, I go, and I bring him my wines. And I'm like, here's my $11.99 like Bordeaux. He's like, ooh. He was like, I didn't really like it. I was like, you've never had a wine less than like $200 for 40 years. So okay. But anyway, he was like, oh, this is in 2017. He said, I would not put all your eggs in the wine basket because wine is on the chopping block. The president administration wants to tariff wine. He warned me years in advance. So I have like a 2-year warning that this is going to happen. So I suddenly become like totally internet crazy. I'm like, tariff, right? And he would make threats. Like he was like, oh, the French really, and like I could hear that. And I was like, he's doing it. So I was super sensitive to I was ready. So when they like announced the tariff, I got hit, but I got hit for like $15K, which is bad, but like other people got hit for like 2.
I mean, but you're a small business. I mean,
I don't have money.
And like that's $15K.
I don't even have health insurance.
Here we go.
I'm on Medicaid, like $15,000.
We're talking like capitalism, free markets, and then you're fucking small businesses.
Well, the thing is that if it was a legitimate, like if there, maybe there was a lever. I mean, every economist in the world says trade wars suck. They don't work.
Yep.
They hurt the person they hurt the citizens of the
country that is doing the measures.
That is perpetrating the tariff. So it's like a dumb... And so...
What's that Shakespeare? It's like, or whoever, that old white guy. It's like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
Right. Exactly. It's like shooting a hole in a boat that you're in.
Right.
So, like, got it. So I'm really sensitive. They announced the tariff. I got whacked. I was like, I don't fucking think so. Like, I don't know. I have kind of a crazy side of me that's just like, sort of like if
I see the crazy
if
eyes.
the war breaks out, I'm probably I'm going to be on the front lines or something. But like, so I'm like, I don't think so. So I wrote this essay and I read it
A la Thoreau.
About freedom. I wanted to tap into that idea of freedom. In fact, I reposted the essay with a big American flag, and I sponsored it out to Trump 2020. And all 1,000 Trumpers liked
They totally
all
you
about
put a flag,
freedom.
Put a flag and say freedom.
Flag and freedom. That's it. And I was like, we have been importing wine in this country since colonial times, since the beginning of the white evil Europeans who came and destroyed this place. And that is our God-given right. I'm like, the Declaration of Independence was signed toasted to with a glass of Madeira because the King of England forgot to circle Madeira on his taxation circle of Europe. It was like kind of out there. You didn't catch it. There was no tax on Madeira. That's why it was signed. That is our like native heritage, like la. And it was like, maybe, and I was told this whole story. I'm like, my dad's a professor. My mother's a woman of the church. I have the right.
You're hitting all the right points.
I know, because that's what we have to do.
You do have to hit the right points.
We can't, the like hyper left agenda. We're not going to get those people. We have to get them with their own shit.
Exactly.
Which is God and Bible and fascism and whatever they do. But so, right. So, anyway, I write this essay, and this woman comes over to my house on a Sunday. She's like a judge, like very smart woman. And I read it to her, and a tear falls, and I'm like, okay, I wrote it right. She's like, oh my God. So she gives me this drug called a beta blocker. You know what these are?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm super insecure.
Yeah,
like I'm the most insecure person. And I was like, I can't read this in front of people. So I pop this. I drive at 2 a.m. I leave my house. I go to DC. I park. I go into the thing. I sit there all morning. I'm assigned to the second half of the day. Then it starts snowing. I listen to these speeches and a lot of people just coming out against the tariffs. I'd already been working with like Susan Collins' office. Like, believe me, I go straight to the Republicans. I have an LLC that's registered in Maine, so I'm like, I'm your constituent. So
play the game, people know the game.
The
play
game.
The game.
So me and like Sue, we're buds.
Yeah.
Not that I would vote for her, but Gideon, all the way 2020. Anyway, but so I go down there. They say we're gonna cut this thing short because it's snowing and like the government is closed at 1:00. And I was like, whoa, hey ho hoo. I'm like, I woke up at 2 a.m.
She said objection.
I woke up at 2 to drive here. I can't like come back tomorrow.
I'm American. I want to be heard by my government.
Right. So I read the speech.
I put on the blazer.
I know.
And 1-inch heels.
I did. Actually, I had like a dress on, which is very weird for me. But so I read the speech, and I gave it my all, and I got a howling ovation. And the great moment in my career was the reception line at the end of the day, where like French people were like, "We want to thank you so much. Maybe you saved the wine business," and I'm like, "Oh, I saved the wine business." Like, oh my God. So anyway.
My name is Mary. It's ordained. Oh.
And it was January, that was on Jan 9, and like suddenly orders start pouring in from like retailers across the country, and like that was a good month. I mean, then Corona and everything. But that was a good month, and I have a lot to sort of say about it. It's totally corruption. I believe it's Bill Foley, the guy who owns the 700 what is he? 700.
Is that guy who just bought Chalk Hill?
He bought Ferrari Carano.
Yeah, Ferrari Carano. Yeah. And like all yeah.
I think he's a good bud of Trump, and I think that they wanted to fuck up the European wine business because there's not enough. Like, people aren't, the snobbiest of the snobs don't buy wines like that. They don't. Chalk Hill is not on like the
Ferrari Carano. I know, but it's like kind of crazy because I think. Right. I mean, I think when you look at the auction market, which is just affluent people from around the world. I don't know.
Well, remember when Australia had its like auction time, like Torbrex and stuff?
Yeah.
Now it's Clarendon Hills or like your buddy
Australis.
Cliff Corn. He loves that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I was actually just on the phone with a dude a couple of days ago who actually does media stuff for wineries and Langdon's. Like people don't realize that down in Australia they have a classification system like they did in Bordeaux, but it's actually more legit. So it's interesting you bring that. But yeah, I mean that I was living in California. That was the whole Grateful Palate. It was Australis, Clarendon Hills, Torbeck, Runrig, all the, and like I said, those are those ass so fat. I mean, like I've never shied away from 16% alcohol in a Rhone wine. But also I've had Rhone wines that are natural 16, not exaggerated. It's just hot down there. Like I've had a 90 Bonneau, which was just, I had a 90 Bonneau. It's probably why Grenache is my favorite varietal. 90 Bonneau, which was a 100-point RP wine. But retailers and wholesalers, they're the real rock stars of the wine business for me, because you're out there really selecting the wines and trenching. So there's a guy, Carlo Russo, over in Jersey. So he was friends with Henri Bonneau, and so Bonneau got scored 100 points, and then Carlo got to choose the best barrels out of the 100 points. So it was the reserve of the 100-point wine, and it was just stupid. I mean,
my friend worked there. Carlo Russo.
Yeah. So Mary Taylor, motherfucking badass.
Been a long road. But anyway, so yeah, I have 16, 17 wines on the market. I'm developing the lower end line a little bit. I love the $11.99 price point. I think if you work really hard, like this, finding that was hard. And I've been sent wines.
Going around the world to beautiful places.
No, but you gotta
drinking wines, eating cheese, having fine meals with really nice.
Destroying your liver.
Really nice, hardworking people. No, I used to say when I was a wine buyer, I was like, I'm destroying my liver so you don't have to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I get it, but your life doesn't suck.
No.
Your life, I mean, and that's good.
I'm actually psyched.
But it's this whole roller coaster. But
I pinch myself. I can't believe where I've gotten to. I think, and people are like, how did you come up with this? Like, how did you come up with? I'm like,
because you're an OTB, which is a term I picked up at Acker.
Oh yeah.
OTB.
Off track betting.
Yeah, you figure that one out.
Okay.
I can't say it now because it's 2020. I can't say what OTB means.
Well, so
you're an OTW. One tough woman.
Okay. I don't love the B word, honestly. Like
I growing up with hip hop the way I did in the 90s, Snoop said it's a bad word, but it was just like I listened to all that 90s hip hop, and it's so bad. It's so misogynistic.
Yeah, why is denigrating women so accepted?
I don't know.
I mean, racism is like a deal breaker for most.
I don't know. I mean, 90s,
but yet women.
90s hip hop was just full of the B word and the N word. It just straight up was, and we just And I remember Maxine Waters was like, "This is no good." Like, shut up, B. And now I'm like, now I don't.
Where's she at? I haven't seen her around. Did she
she's
retire? She's still in there. All right, good. I haven't seen her. I'm off the Facebook generally. I'm on it, but I think it's evil and it's ruining the world. So.
It has. There's a good book if you want to read about it. It's called what's that called? Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus, and you will understand the evil of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, interesting. We have 3 minutes.
Dougie Fresh, you're on.
So I just want to finish my mantra by saying I started my company by working and being exposed to shit. And maybe I didn't want to fucking serve pancakes at IHOP, but I did. And I learned things, that's just how you evolve. People are like, how did you start? I'm like, you go and work and just wherever you can make money and survive real hard and be into it and keep your eyes open and something will pop if you're a thinker, Yeah. And that's it.
Wow. Well, I will say that Kanye West is crazy as fuck, but I will say I do love this one story Dave Chappelle told about him, and so after sitting here with you for 2 hours, what I will say is that, and this is a Kanye quote. Kanye was doing something on Chappelle's show, and he got a phone call, and Dave was like, "This is when I knew Kanye was going to be a superstar." He was like, I'm with Dave Chappelle, right? And then he said, and he said, and all I heard Kanye say is "My life is dope. I do dope shit, so I'll drink to that.
Love
Your
that.
life is dope.
Come
you
on.
do dope shit." Thank you so much.
Thank you. I got to take a picture.
Mary Taylor.
Marvin, black wine guy. Love it.
Yeah. So where can people find more about you and your wines?
Yeah, go to your retail store and ask them for Mary Taylor wine. I'm sure they've heard of it. You know, especially the ones, you know, the best is the ones that don't carry me because they can stuff it. I mean, the wines are awesome and everybody wants to buy them. So, but yeah, I sell all
Thought
over
we were
the
gonna have
country.
I thought we were gonna have a G.I. Jane moment there when I thought you were like, those who don't care can suck my dick.
Yeah.
I love G.I. Jane. She's like, Master Sergeant, suck my dick.
Suck my dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I.
Or give us some. What would Catherine say to these people who don't carry your wine? Hepburn.
Who?
Hepburn.
Oh, darling, you have to know about Mary Taylor. These are the wines you must drink. You must. So, yeah, no, but like Union Square has been a huge supporter of mine since the beginning. Warehouse Wine and Spirits, Sherry Lehman, all over the place.
And
like
also just
Gnarly
follow
Vine.
her on Instagram at Mary Taylor Wine.
Yeah.
And you can go to mt.wine.com?
No, it's mt.wine.
mt.wine.com.
No, mt.wine. That's it.
Wow.
You should have a .wine. All you have to do is put in .wine, and you can have one yourself.
Okay. And we both have the initials MT. So,
Yeah.
So Mary, damn.
That was fun.
That was fun.
That was
as
2
fuck.
hours?
That was 2 hours.
That was like
that
10
shit
minutes.
was crazy. That's what I'm talking
Who doesn't
about.
love talking about themselves?
Who doesn't love drinking wine and talking to cool fucking people?
Exactly.
Let's be honest here.